Hey guys, so recently there's been leaks stating that Cyrene is going to be a dedicated support for Castris, which would obviously be absurd because Castris already has like 2 characters designed to simp for her. But there's also been leaks stating that Cyrene is gonna glaze every Chrysos Heir, which only makes sense because it's very on character for her, considering she's an Alicia XP. So in this video, I'll be designing a Cyrene kit that I believe could maybe not be a best in slot with every Chrysos Heir, but at least beneficial and a great option for each of them. Okay, so before beginning to craft the kit, you first have to figure out the unique identity of the kit that'll make it stand out, even just a little bit from all the other kits. Obviously, Cyrene's kit identity will be characterized by its ability to support every Chrysos Heir, but how will she do this? Well, if we start off with the first Chrysos Heir we got, Aglaia, we see that Aglaia's kit identity is characterized by her memo sprites, high speed, and energy requirements. For RMC, his kit identity is characterized by his memo sprites and true damage buff. For Medei, his kit identity is characterized by his self-sustainability, HP scaling, skill point friendly, and single target healing preference that Hyacinth didn't provide. For Tribi, her kit identity is characterized by her AoE amplifying effects, HP scaling, powerful sub DPS, and ultimate reliance. Okay, so already we can see that Cyrene will want to at least heal or buff HP since we have 2 HP scaling Chrysos Heirs. For Anaxa, his kit is characterized by his multiple attacks, his ability to be played as a sub DPS or main DPS, and powerful single targets or AoE skills. For Castris, her kit is characterized by her memo sprites, HP scaling, and being skill point friendly. So again, we see that a big portion of the Chrysos Heirs have either HP scaling or memo sprites, so Cyrene's kit would definitely benefit at least a big portion of Chrysos Heirs by buffing these traits. For Hyacinth, her kit identity is characterized by her healing, max HP buffing, memo sprites, and HP/healing scaling sub DPS. Again, we see this pattern of HP and memo sprites, which is probably why Cyrene was leaked to be a best in slot for Castris, considering that Castris is mostly defined by just these 2 traits. For Cypher, her kit identity is defined by her permanent vulnerability, true damage buff, and nuke playstyle. Okay, so with Cypher, we yet again see this true damage buff being brought up again. Now, considering that we have 3 HP scalers, 4 memo sprite characters, and only 2 true damage buff characters, it leads me to believe that Cyrene will also have a true damage buff to even out this ratio a bit. For Feinin, his kit identity is characterized by his departed states, ally target buff requirements, and skill damage. For Hysilence, her kit identity is characterized by her dot application and damage. For Ceridra, her kit identity is characterized by her personal damage, even though it sucks, and her ability to copy skills, which as of right now is only good for Feinin and Anaxa, but some leaks have been suggesting that for 4.0 we might be getting a new game mechanic, in the same way we got Super Break for Penacony and Memo Sprites for Amphorius, that might relate to Ceridra's abilities to copy skills. Thus, Cyrene's kit could really only go one of 2 ways. One, she does something similar to Ceridra, and because she's a really hyped character and is releasing closer to 4.0 than Ceridra, she just outright replaces her. Or she doesn't do anything like Ceridra and thus doesn't buff her in any way, because Ceridra is meant to be the Ruan Mei for Super Break or the Sunday for Memo Sprites. That is to say, Ceridra is meant to be a really good investment for a future game mechanic. In my opinion, I believe the latter is far more likely, and thus Ceridra isn't going to get any real buffs from Cyrene, unless Cyrene completely ignores what mostly defines Ceridra's kit identity, that being her ability to copy skills, and just buffs her really bad personal damage, but I doubt it. Anyways, for Evernight, it seems like her beta kit identity is characterized by her HP scaling and memo sprites, meaning that she is no different from Castris. For Dan Heng, per Mentor Teray, his kit identity is characterized by his attack buffing, shield, and his follow-up attack. Now, even though these characters, at the time of posting this video, are still in development, their kit identities will probably remain the same, since during the last beta versions, they typically only change their performance. So, once again, Cyrene is definitely going to buff memo sprites and HP scaling characters. So, now that I've explained all the Chrysos Heir's kit identities, I feel like it's pretty obvious Cyrene's kit identity is all about providing buffs for HP scalers and memo sprites, while also having some true damage to provide more true damage options for players, and skill and speed buffs as well for Feinin, Anaxa, and Aglaia. Starting off with her basic attack, it does nothing special like every other basic attack, but it has a subtle difference from regular basic attacks, since this one scales off of HP, meaning that Cyrene will be an HP scaling character. For her skill, Cyrene will summon or heal her Memo Sprites, advance allies forward by 12%, designate one ally as quote-unquote beautiful, and provide them with 20 energy and 60% crit damage dealt for skills for 2 turns. The skill will help any speedster like Aglaia or even a hyperspeed Tribi, while also providing Feinen with 2 core flame stacks and increasing the DPS for Feinen, Anaxa, and the Herdus' skills by a good amount. Now, for her 400 cost ultimates, Cyrene will summon or heal her Memo Sprites, deal damage equal to 240% of her max HP, set a zone that heals allies by 10% of her max HP, plus an additional 300 HP when their HP drops below 50% for 3 turns, and gives a 15% true damage buff to all allies for 3 turns as well. Now, even though the cost of this ultimate is a bit expensive, it can easily be obtained with the right units, aka with Chrysos Heirs. This is because her talent will grant 10 energy to herself after the beautiful has taken a turn, or after they have healed for 10% of their max HP, meaning that this ultimate will be hard to get, similarly to Aglaia's ultimate, but with the right teammates like Aglaia, Medei, Castris, Feinen, or with even a random hyperspeed or HP scaling DPS, this ultimate will be fairly easy to obtain. Not only that, but this ultimate should also be obtainable, although not as easily obtainable, with pretty much any team, since her ultimate already heals allies, which will provide Cyrene with a ton of energy. For her first major trace, she provides 6% damage dealt to an ally for every 1000 HP that they have, and 8% damage dealt up to 56% damage dealt for every action they've done, after Cyrene uses her skill for 2 turns, which will provide a ton of damage dealt to any character with a ton of HP like Tribi, Medei, Castris, Evernight, or Feinen, and a ton of damage dealt to any character that does a lot of turns like Aglaia, Hyperspeed Tribi, Feinen, or Anaxa. For her second trace, Cyrene provides 0.5% true damage for every 1000 HP that an ally has when using her ultimate, and 3% up to 21% true damage for every action that ally has done, which should be really good with any character with a ton of HP, or any character that does a ton of actions. For her third major trace, she provides a buff that acts as an energy refund for 3 turns when using her ultimate. This buff will refund the energy of an ally when they use their ultimate, depending on their speed breakpoints. If an ally has 134 through 159 speed, she refunds 5% of their energy when they use their ultimate. If an ally has 160 through 199 speed, she refunds 15% of their energy when they use their ultimates, and if an ally has 200 plus speed, she refunds 30% of their energy when they use their ultimate, which should pretty much completely solve Aglaia's energy problems, while also providing a good amount of energy to any speedster so that their ultimate uptime is improved, which synergizes well since pretty much every speedster is only built as a speedster because they want good ultimate uptime. Now when it comes to her Memo Sprite's abilities, well, because most Memo Sprites seem to record either healing, damage, or actions done from allies, Cyrene's Memo Sprites will be no different. Her Memo Sprites will record the amount of HP and actions done by allies and increase her personal damage based on how much HP and actions her Memo Sprite has recorded. For her first Memo Sprite talent, her Memo Sprite maintains 160 speed, is immune to crowd control effects and debuffs, has 50% of Cyrene's max HP, and will gain 1 memento stack for every action that the Beautiful has done, and or 1 memento stack for every 10% of the Beautiful's max HP that has increased or decreased by up to 30 stacks, which will synergize really well with the Aglaia's speed, Feynen's 7 turns, Anaxas's 4 skills with Ceredra, and HP scalers that heal or consume HP. For her other Memo Sprite talent, her basic Memo Sprite's skills damage will be increased by 1% for every 1000 HP that the team has, which will typically result in around 20% more damage dealt and a team filled with HP scalers. And her special Memo Sprite skills damage will be increased by 3% for every 1000 HP that the team has, which will typically result in around 60% more damage dealt in a team filled with HP scalers. Her other Memo Sprite talents will be pretty simple, and only advance Cyrene forward by 30% and provide her with 20 energy when her Memo Sprite disappears. For her other Memo Sprite talent, she will increase the crit rate of all allies by 6% for every ally that isn't a Memo Sprite on the field, and for every Memo Sprite you have on the team, you'll get an additional 4% crit rate, which will synergize really well with the team that has a ton of Memo Sprites. For her basic Memo Sprite talents, Cyrene's Memo Sprites will select a target, prioritizing an elite or higher level enemy target. It'll then deal damage equal to 50% of its max HP to one enemy, and for every one memento stack that Cyrene has, further deals damage equal to 2.5% of its max HP up to 75% of its max HP to one enemy, and after use, Cyrene will gain one memento stack, which is pretty similar to Everknight's basic Memo Sprite skill. For her Memo Sprite's special skill though, Cyrene's Memo Sprite will deal 150% of its max HP to one enemy, then 75% of its max HP to adjacent enemies, then one instance of damage that deals 7.5% of its max HP for every memento stack that Cyrene has to a random enemy when Cyrene uses her ultimate. This special Memo Sprite skill is going to be a pretty big nuke that deals far more damage when maxing out Cyrene's memento stacks and can only be used when using her really expensive ultimate. And that should be all. Now, if I'm being honest, this kit lacks a ton of creativity since it's literally just Cyrene buffing the Chrysos Heirs and doing a ton of HP scaling damage without any unique special mechanic like Phoenix's ultimate that ties into the lore of Cyrene. Regardless, even though her playstyle may be drastically different when she releases, and the buffs will probably be a lot more about shilling HP remembrance characters rather than the Chrysos Heirs as a whole, I feel like the majority of her kit here will probably be similar to the finished version, but who knows? As of right now, the intricacies of Cyrene's kits are a complete mystery, so we'll just have to wait and see until her release. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have anything to say, feel free to leave it down in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate it. Goodbye.